Step 2 in GOAT's master plan. Brace yourselves. Tank again in the 25-26 season to get another top 5 pick. This is, I think, where you might lose some Bulls fans who are thinking, hey, we'll tank this year. Hopefully we'll get Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, Harper, whatever. And then back to trying to be competitive.
Yeah.
We got some other good young guys they can run with.
Sure.
Yeah.
You don't see it that way.
I don't. I mean, I think, like, as we've said before, the Bulls right now have 2 guys that are playing like all-stars.
Yeah.
And they're 10 and 15.
Woo.
Yeah.
And the East is like as bad as I can remember it. So
The Eastern Conference.
I just think they are going to need as much talent as possible. And I think they do have some young talent on the roster. Obviously, we're all excited about Modest. Kobe has been fantastic. Io's been fantastic. We can talk more about how they factor into things. But I think, again, you may get a top 5 pick in this draft, and maybe that guy doesn't turn out to be the number 1 guy. You can't just do this like 1-year turnaround and it's all fixed.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I think you do have to invest a little bit more. And frankly, like 2 years probably would be like on the short end of, and like result in getting lucky a little bit if this
Right.
were to turn around as quickly as 2 years. So I also think, and we'll talk more about this later, if you do end up finding a trade for Zach or Vooch, like you may not want to tank next year, but they're going to be a lot worse when Modest is a second-year player, and whoever you get in as a rookie, like rookies are typically not very productive. So I think assuming they can do some of the following steps that we'll talk about, like it may be even easier to tank even harder next year.
Yeah.
And next year's draft, I think a lot of people are saying that it could be even stronger at the top than this year's draft. You have Cameron Boozer, obviously Carlos Boozer's son, who is going to be very good.
Yeah,
AJ
he looks
DeBansta
good.
just signed at BYU. He's going to be very good. And then Darren Peterson, another guard coming up, who's supposed to be very good. So I obviously have not like scouted very much on any of these guys, but like you put yourself in position to get the star players. And I wrote this before the season, maybe this summer, like it's going to require luck. You have to put yourself in position to get lucky. And putting yourself at the bottom of the draft, again, is putting yourself in position to get lucky. I think, yeah, it sucks to have to do this back-to-back years, but it's better than having to be mediocre for 10.
Here's the thing, Will. I think you're right, 100%. And for me, what makes it more digestible is if part 1 goes the way it's supposed to, that's exactly what's going to happen in part 2. You're going to be ass. Like, you're not going to be a good basketball team. You're going to not have all those players that are going to be there for the Bulls that are there right now. They won't be there. So you'll be building young. And as Will just stated, when you're a young guy coming in, I don't care who you are, unless you're a phenom.
Yeah.
And even that, you're still going to struggle in your first season. And you're going to lose a bunch of games in your first season. Even if you believe in Modest, as I do, to be that guy who can be that number 2 on that team. Let's see. Might be number 1. Who knows? But I believe in Modest. Even if you believe in him, that'll be his first year actually getting that run at that position.
Yeah.
He will be that first year. And guess what? He's going to struggle. It's going to be some mistakes that are going to be made. So even if you don't want to hear what Will's saying, it will happen that way. That's exactly how they'll be. They won't be a good basketball team. They'll be a one that's learning and trying to figure out, who does what and what part goes where.
There's a lot more enthusiasm for tanking in the comments than I would have expected.
I was just going to see that. Fish said he's back with back-to-back tanking seasons, pointing out that these would be the 2 draft classes to do it.
Because you can understand it. I think because it makes more logical sense after you do the first one, that people have something to look forward to. It's kind of like when they got Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
You understood it, that they were going to be bad that next year when they got him. It was about building.
Even look at the Bears. It's like you land the generational guy, and it still takes time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any of us are sitting here saying Caleb sucks. He's not going to ever be good, but he's a rookie quarterback, and that takes time. And obviously there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on too. But I don't know. I just think like you don't want to get into a routine of tanking every year. Like tanking is not good. I don't think, and again, we've talked about this too. The incentive structure should not be geared towards tanking.
It's the league's problem that it makes the most sense for the Bulls or other teams in the situation where they currently find themselves, that this is the best path forward or the best path out of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I think
it's the league's problem, but this is where the Bulls are.
And I think you have to play to the rules that are in front of you.
Yeah.
And again, I think you need multiple high-level players. You look at, Jamal Murray and Jokic. You look at Jalen and Jason. You look at Steph and Clay and Draymond. Like, you need multiple, or Kevin Durant. You need high-level talent up and down the roster. And then I think also, like, the other piece of this, which we'll get to here next, is like these contracts are much cheaper for rookies. And so that allows you, if you get a guy on a rookie scale deal who's really impactful, and maybe it's not in the first year, but the second or third year, like, that can open up a lot of doors for you in terms of team building, and using those guys low cap holds to then become a free agent destination. But you need to have that foundation in place. Otherwise, again, I just don't feel like you're even started. You're at step 0 at that point.
Step 0.
I didn't even know it was a step 0.
Say, I have a step 0 as far as before we get to the step 1 of getting that top 10 pick this season. I think y'all know what step 0 is. But shout out to Trick Daddy Dex, who threw us a $10 super chat. First super on a live stream. Shout out to you.
Shout out,
saying
man.
Dropping my tithe in the offering plate.
Tithe. Yes.
I'm not a church going person.
You are not. Tithe.
Well, I thought it was just like, do you put the offering in the offering plate?
Yeah, it's called tithe. I don't want to get into tithe.
Okay.
But, another time.
But yes. But it's funny because I told Will that's the guy we met.
Oh, yeah?
Time.
Oh,
and he's got really long hair, and I call him Virginia Beach Jesus because he used to see him. When you see him, you'll be like, oh, yeah, because he got the really long. Like,
he's also commenting exactly how he speaks, too,
yes,
which I appreciate.
Yes. He's a really good dude, man. Shout out to him, man.
I like meeting him.
Shout out to him. The other element to this, like step 2, being in the Bulls' best interest to try and go for back-to-back tanks and securing these picks, and you saying the bottom could fall out a bit further if they do manage to find trades for Vooch and Zach in the offseason, if they don't do it before that February deadline in season, is that the Bulls' pick goes from being top 10 protected this year to top 8 protected for the 26 draft class. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about getting lucky and maybe getting lucky again, it's even more imperative that they are as bad as can be, because they don't even have, they'll have 2 fewer spots of wiggle room from where they are now of, are we bad enough? And right now, there is very little wiggle room on if they are bad enough and are mathematically giving themselves a chance, and not just a chance, an over 22% chance of giving up that pick.
So, yeah, they're going to have to be worse, is what Will is saying. Like, so whatever you feel they are now to get that 10, they're going to have to be worse than what we're looking at, which is honestly what I expect them to be if Will's plan is going according to plan.
Yeah, and just to put some context into that, which I agree with, like right now, in order to guarantee the Bulls keep their pick, they have to be the 6th worst team, because 4 teams can jump. The way the lottery works,
right?
It's like you can either jump into the top 4 or you stay put, or obviously get pushed back if another team jumps you. And so if you are trying to guarantee keeping your pick next year, you have to be a bottom 4 team, because that way you cannot fall to 9. So right now they're not close to that.
I think I need to take a year and a half sabbatical from this job.
A spiritual journey that goes on.
Yes.
Yeah, but this is the truth of what they'll have to be. And I'll reiterate, that's why I think it's more easily digestible for year 2 for people, because if year 1 goes like you want it to, you've got a guy, you've got that guy, you've got him, put him to the side, you've got Modest, boom, we got a team right there. And even if you're telling yourself, well, we got Modest, we got whatever pick we get in that draft, shouldn't that be enough? Like, that's the wrong way to think about anything. You should always want the best players you can possibly get, and the best chance to get those best players that you could possibly get. And in the NBA, especially for the Bulls, the draft is the way, because they haven't been known to make those trades to get those guys like that. So it's going to have to be the draft, and you want to stockpile that young talent and then look really, really awesome. And then we can go have a great time right after that. Right, Will? We can have fun after that? Are you going to tell me to take again? I can't take 3 years, Will.
I mean, look, you have to secure the star player. So if you don't do that this year, then maybe it does extend the tank. And that's why I'm so adamant about getting the best pick possible, because you want to put this stuff behind you. You don't want to do it forever. Sure. But if you have to, you have to, because otherwise you're just spinning your wheels. And so, again, the most important thing is finding that guy. If you draft Kamen Malawach, for example, he's going to be an interesting center. He can shoot, he can block some shots, he's exciting. I don't know that he's going to be a franchise-changing player. So now you go into next season, and there's even more pressure on you to get that guy because you've missed on an opportunity to do it. And then you have to start to think about maybe that next year too. And I think going into it with this focus and like determination to actually be where you want to be, and again, it takes luck. But I think the idea of like, oh, it's flattened lottery odds now, like you can be further back and still jump up is flawed logic. You should just look at what it actually is. The odds are higher the closer you are to the bottom.
We all silly like the mayor.